Hello guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to focus on factors of production. What a factor of production is, in simple terms, what types of input products do we use in order to produce an output? Now, in some cases, we might even use more than one input. So let's say, for example, we have input 1, input 2, input 3, and so on to produce a certain output. You can think of any product that's being produced. For example, maybe a table or a chair or a TV, cell phone. Those all require inputs in order to produce a final good. So what we can say here is that the inputs obviously is your primary product. And when we finished or when we produce an output, we call it a finished product. So what are these types of inputs that lead to our output? This is what we'll discuss in the video going forward. Okay, so I want you to imagine this. Let's say, for example, you want to open up a pizza restaurant. For what reason? To satisfy the needs of people and to make an income. So here's our pizza restaurant. But we do it for the sole purpose of creating an output. And what is that output? Obviously, that would be the actual pizza to be consumed. So we have an output. But what do we need in order to create that output or to create that pizza? And this is basically what we need to understand. So maybe there's some ingredients like cheese and tomato base in order to create pizzas. What happens here in the factors of production, they're combined here. So the FOPs are combined in order to produce a particular output. Now, what are those factors of production? Let's dive into them. Okay, so here's our pizza restaurant on the right-hand side. And we need to find out what was the decision criteria before you actually open up that pizza restaurant. So you have to go through an understanding of what you need in order to produce the pizza. So you need a few FOPs. So our first FOP is land. So we need land to operate our business. Otherwise, we really can't produce anything. Example, if we need to manufacture chairs, tables, televisions, carpets, whatever, we need a base. So we need land in order to produce a product. The second factor of production we can say is labor. So these are our employees. These guys are used or use our ingredients in our pizza restaurant to create a pizza. A third factor of production is capital. So this is the amount of money initially required to open up the business. What we can think of here as well is, let's say, for example, we're starting our pizza restaurant. What do we need in order to produce a pizza? We need machinery, and this is in the form of maybe an oven. So we buy a particular oven that we need to produce the best pizzas in town, and that will be part of our capital. A fourth factor of production is entrepreneurship. So here we can think of yourself as the boss who put up the capital requirement to start the business. And now you're the entrepreneur, you're the leader of the business, of your pizza restaurant, and you employ a certain amount of people to produce a certain amount of pizzas. And you also had to resource the land in order to get the business up and running. A fifth factor of production, which we probably couldn't live without these days, is technology. Wi-Fi, computers, cash registers, um, things that improve the efficiency of our business, maybe using an app like Uber Eats or a delivery company that can deliver our food to the customer. That would be considered as part of technology. In some textbooks, the fact of production, which is land, is called a natural resource. So, not to confuse it with anything, just remember that you have a certain amount of land that you need in order to produce a product. Think about it yourself. Manufacturers, they don't just operate from thin air, they need a certain amount of land in order to produce a product. Okay, so now that you understand the factors of production, we need to understand them in the form of remuneration. How do they get paid for their services? For example, when you occupy land, you pay a form of rent, or maybe through a bond if you take it out through the bank. Laborers normally earn a salary, so they get paid in terms of a salary or a wage. The way capital is remunerated is in the form of interest. So let's say, for example, you buy a machine from Germany and you pay a certain amount of interest on that machinery. If you borrow that machinery, let's say, for example, you're working in a corporate environment and you have a number of printers on each floor. Those printers are normally rented out. So, for example, Konica Minolta might rent out a machine to a company and they pay a certain rental interest rate to use that machine at that time. The fourth factor of production, which is entrepreneurship, receives or is remunerated in the form of profits. The fifth factor of production, which is technology, is really hard to sort of measure in terms of how you're remunerated for that technology. So for ease of understanding, we leave technology out. That's how simple factors of production are. We just need to know that whatever we use in the production process to produce a product is known as our factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, as well as technology. In our case-specific example with the pizza restaurant, we can think of our inputs in the form of, let's say, for example, our ingredients, so the cheese, the tomato base, what that would be considered as an input. The same thing like water and lights. So water and electricity could be another form of input. What about our rental? Our rental for the business, that's also part of our inputs. And the amount of workers that we employ for our pizza restaurant. Those are all inputs in order to create a particular output. And you can see the similarities if you picture yourself in another type of business, um, other than the pizza restaurant. We can use the same process, the same thinking in order to understand what are those requirements that we need, or what are those input factors that we need in order to create output. And that basically is what factors of production are. It helps us understand what types of inputs we need in order to create a particular output. So you can use this for any example whenever you guys are done studying or you want to open up a business. You can always use these four factors of production to list down exactly what you need in order to produce output for that particular business.